It was supposed to be just another audition, just another step in the process of applying to the prestigious Westbridge Performing Arts College, the kind of place that launched careers, made stars, and crushed dreams in the same breath. But this particular audition would do more than that. It would uncover secrets, pit friends against each other, and leave one student asking a question no 18-year-old should ever have to consider. How far is too far to get what you want? The story begins with a handful of applicants waiting in a dimly lit hallway outside the Black Box Theatre. There's the quiet and intensely focused girl who seems to be whispering lines to herself, clearly talented but not interested in mingling. There's the pretty boy who keeps stretching and yawning like this is beneath him, though he's secretly practiced his monologue 50 times the night before. Then there's the girl who keeps refreshing her phone, not because she's nervous, but because she's waiting on something, or someone. And finally, there's the scholarship hopeful, sitting on the floor with a battered script in hand and holes in his sneakers, but eyes sharp and observant. The auditions are supposed to be blind and fair, no favoritism, no second chances. But from the moment the doors open, it's clear this audition will be anything but. The scholarship hopeful, let's call him the observer, goes first. He nails his piece. Strong voice, emotional depth, everything the panel is looking for. But when he walks out, he notices something. The pretty boy is whispering something to the panel chair, and they all laugh. A private joke? Or something more? Next up is the focused girl. She's flawless until halfway through her scene when her phone buzzes loudly from her bag. She stumbles. Her rhythm breaks. She apologizes, flustered, and the panel dismisses her early. Outside, she's visibly shaken, but she swears she turned the phone off. Then it's the girl with the phone, the waiter. She walks in with a smirk. Her monologue is fine, good even, but nothing extraordinary. Still, when she exits, the panel seems energized. One of them even says, "That's the type of presence we're looking for." Finally, the pretty boy. Confident, suave, overly familiar with the lead judge. His audition is average. He forgets a line, improvises, and moves on like it's no big deal. But again, the panel doesn't seem to mind. The observer takes all this in silently. He knows what he saw and heard. And when the callback list goes up later that day, it's just as he expected. The waiter, the pretty boy, and a surprise third. Someone who hadn't even been at the first audition. Whispers start in the hallway. Who is that? Why would they let her in now? The mystery girl, later identified as the daughter of a major donor, shows up the next morning, breezing into rehearsal like she belongs there. By the end of Chapter 1, the observer is digging. He checks the theatre office schedule and sees that the callback sheet was posted an hour later than planned. He asks a janitor if anyone was in the theatre late last night. The janitor shrugs and says, "Yeah, I saw someone slipping papers into the office. Pretty sure it was one of the panel members." The observer doesn't want to believe it's rigged, but the pieces are adding up. Someone's playing favorites, someone's sabotaging auditions, and someone is being protected for reasons that have nothing to do with talent. And then, just as he's leaving campus, he gets a text from a blocked number. "Be careful who you accuse. This place eats the honest alive." The rehearsal room smelled like dust, sweat, and ambition. Tall mirrors lined the back wall, reflecting nervous eyes and overly rehearsed smiles. The list had been posted, and only a select group had made it through to the callbacks. Those who didn't make it had disappeared in silence, their dreams quietly abandoned like old set pieces. The observer had made it, but barely. His name was scrawled at the bottom of the list, squeezed in like an afterthought. He wasn't supposed to be there. Not in their eyes, but he was now, and he was watching. The callbacks were structured as group scenes, partners paired off, instructed to run the same dramatic piece in rotation. It was a test of chemistry, improvisation, adaptability. But what it really became was a battlefield for manipulation. The waiter, still glued to her phone, was mysteriously paired with the panel favorite, the pretty boy. They didn't rehearse like the rest. They didn't need to. The lines weren't just memorized, they'd been coached. Their interaction was too polished, too rehearsed for two people who'd only just been paired. The donor's daughter, the mysterious addition no one remembered auditioning, was paired with the observer. Her smile was all teeth and poison. The moment they sat down to rehearse, she leaned in close. "You're wasting your time," she whispered. "They've already decided." He blinked. "Decided what?" "Who gets in? Who doesn't? This whole thing is theatre," she winked. "Fitting, right?" He wanted to push her, ask more, but she returned to reading lines like nothing had happened. Her tone was flat, deliberate. almost as if she wanted to tank the scene. Later, when the pairs were brought on stage for official evaluation, the observer was ready. He shifted the emotion of the scene, ad-libbed pain into his lines, turned a lukewarm dialogue into something raw. The donor's daughter flinched, off balance, but followed. The panel took notice. Whispers, head tilts, pens scribbled. But then, just as the observer felt a flicker of hope, one of the judges leaned forward and asked, "Did you deviate from the script?" He paused. "I did." A sigh. "Stick to what's written. We're judging discipline." Meanwhile, when the waiter and pretty boy went up, they flirted their way through the scene like it was a rom-com. Nothing raw, nothing risky, just charm. And the panel clapped. Backstage, the observer overheard something that confirmed his worst suspicion. Two judges chatting near the vending machine, one saying, "She's got a pipeline to the dean, right?" The other laughed. She is the pipeline. It wasn't just favoritism. It was influence, politics, and someone higher up was pulling the strings. That night, the observer received another anonymous message. "You won't change the outcome, but you could change the story." Was it a warning? An offer? He followed the trail. Using a dummy email and a fake profile, he messaged back. "What do you mean?" The reply came instantly. "Meet me in the costume loft after lights out." It was reckless. It was probably a trap, but it was also his only chance to find out the truth. At 11:47 p.m. Martin Iswoi crept into the loft. Costumes hung in bags, eerie shapes in the dark. A dim light flicked on near the back. The person waiting? The focused girl. The one whose phone had buzzed during her first audition. She turned, face pale. "I didn't make callbacks, but I have something you need to see." She pulled out her phone, not the one that buzzed, but a second one. "I recorded the entire panel deliberation. I left my bag in the room by accident. It caught everything." She played it. Voices. Laughter. "That kid? No. He's not Westbridge material." "What about the girl with the donor father?" "She's already got a dorm reserved." "She bombed the monologue." "Doesn't matter. She has value." It was damning. And it wasn't just about decisions, it was about rigging. The waiter's phone had buzzed during the focused girl's audition on purpose. It had been connected to a Bluetooth trigger. One of the judges, smug, self-assured, had set it off. "I thought maybe I was paranoid," the focused girl said. "But then I saw this." She swiped to a photo. A list. Typed. Printed. Dated before the first audition day. The cast list. All names accounted for, including the donor's daughter, who hadn't even shown up until the second round. The observer stared in stunned silence. "This changes everything." The focused girl nodded. "But if you go public with it, you're not just blowing up an audition, you're blowing up the whole school." He looked at her. "Then let's make it loud." Outside, the pretty boy passed by, clearly heading for a secret meeting of his own. The observer turned to her one last time. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated. Then whispered, "No, but I trust the truth." And just like that, their plan began. To take down Westbridge from the inside. The next 48 hours were a blur of adrenaline and whispers, of late-night strategy sessions and quiet surveillance. The focused girl and the observer, now unlikely co-conspirators, had drafted a plan with precision. Their goal wasn't just exposure, it was undeniable, irreversible truth. Something so public and irrefutable that the administration couldn't bury it even if they tried. It started with the footage. The focused girl's recording had been spliced, time-stamped, and layered with screen captures of the pre-printed cast list and confirmation emails showing dorm assignments that had been issued before auditions ever took place. The Observer, surprisingly tech-savvy, uploaded the damning compilation onto a private but shareable server, then scheduled it to go live during the final audition showcase, when the entire student body, faculty, and even donors would be in the auditorium. But the wild card was still the waiter. They didn't know if she was complicit or just a puppet, but she had access. And the Observer had an idea. He caught her backstage during rehearsals, where she was texting furiously, no doubt to her inside contacts. He approached her with calculated calm. "I know what you've been doing," he said, keeping his voice low. "And I'm giving you a chance to be on the right side when the lights come up." She blinked, surprised at his boldness. "Excuse me? You helped sabotage an audition. You were given lines in advance. You've got dirt under your nails, whether you meant to or not." She scoffed, but her fingers froze over her phone. That's ridiculous. Then why, he said, holding up his own phone, does this footage show the judges laughing about your special arrangement? Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. He leaned in closer. Help us, or when the news breaks, your name's at the top of the scandal. She swallowed hard, then nodded, barely. That night, she left a green binder in the stage manager's booth. It contained cue sheets, private notes from the judging panel, even a scribbled comment that read, "Ensure Jay stays silent re the phone stunt." The final performance arrived like the eye of a storm, eerily calm at first, but everyone could feel the pressure building beneath. The showcase was part monologue, part musical number, part dramatic scene. Friends sat nervously in rows. Donors sipped sparkling water and nodded politely. Faculty buzzed with forced smiles. Behind the curtain, the observer waited in the wings, blood humming in his ears. The pretty boy was smoothing his hair, oblivious. The donor's daughter was fidgeting in her costume, but her eyes betrayed no nerves. Why would they? She'd known she was getting in before any of them auditioned. And then, with perfect timing, the lights went dark. A beat. Then the projector on stage flickered to life. But instead of the planned set backdrop, the screen filled with a grainy video. Voices filled the theatre. She's already got a dorm reserved. Doesn't matter how she did. We need the donation. Trigger the phone. She's too good to get in. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Faculty stood. A donor's wine glass shattered against the tile. And backstage? Panic. The donor's daughter cursed under her breath. The pretty boy's mouth fell open. The waiter sank onto a nearby prop box. And the focused girl? She stepped into the wings, calm, steady, her face awash in the glow of fallout. The head of the program ran to the control booth shouting, "Cut the feed, cut the..." But it was too late. Emails flashed on screen. Audio continued. Timestamps, notes, lists. And then, the final shot. The precast list with names circled. Each one corresponding to someone standing on that stage, pretending this was fair. Silence followed. Deafening. Then the observer stepped onto the stage, not as an actor, but as a witness. He turned to the crowd and said simply, "We all came here believing this program stood for excellence. Instead, we walked into a rigged performance. This isn't theatre. It's fraud." The audience erupted, some in applause, some in outrage. Faculty stormed out. The dean was visibly sweating. Security appeared backstage. The donor's daughter was already gone. The pretty boy shouted something about defamation, but none of it mattered anymore. Within the hour, the video had been reposted, downloaded, and shared across every major campus group. It made the local news that night. By morning, Westbridge was trending, for all the wrong reasons. An internal investigation launched. Scholarships were revoked. Admissions officers were fired. The dean retired a month later. The waiter disappeared from public view entirely. Some said she transferred. Others said she'd been told to vanish quietly to preserve the school's crumbling dignity. As for the observer, he didn't get into Westbridge. But neither did most of the exposed students. And he didn't need to. He got something better, the truth. And the focused girl? She ended up at another school entirely. But her inbox flooded with requests from media outlets, podcasts, even producers. Because the story wasn't just about corruption. It was about what happened when someone chose to stand up and tear down the velvet curtain. The scandal didn't end when the lights went out. It began the moment someone refused to play their part.